Hey, Phil, I asked Michael Carter yesterday what the focus should be for the offense these final weeks and what they need to improve on. And he said just consistency. How can you guys accomplish that?
Well, I think you look at your body of work from the previous game, and we really look at it from a statistical standpoint and evaluation standpoint from the whole season, just to see, every week where it is you need to get better from an offensive standpoint, and then it becomes more specific when you plug it into things that they're doing well on defense. So I think we've got to continue to try to maintain consistency on third down and in the red zone. And we have to be consistent on first down because Notre Dame does a really, really good job of getting you behind the chains. And, they're elite on third down. And so that's where they want to live. They want to live on third down with you. And so it'll be a challenge on Saturday to stay out of it.
And that kind of leads into my question about what have you seen out of Notre Dame on film? This looks like probably one of the best defense you'll see all season.
There's no question. I mean, this will be the most physical unit we've seen. They're really, really good up front there. I think they're giving up about 80 yards a game rushing. Clemson, who we all know is very, very talented, rushed the ball for 34 yards with, in my opinion, one of the best running backs in the country. And so it's going to be a challenge here to, one, physically compete with, their front on the line of scrimmage. Our guys are looking forward to it. I think the second level, the linebackers 33 and 40, do a phenomenal job of defending the run game. They're really gap sound. They're not out of position. They squeeze the box. And 6 and 14 are elite tacklers. I mean, they're 6 and 14 are future NFL players. They split them. Very rarely will you ever see 14 and 6 on the same side of the field. I wouldn't put them on the same side either. Both of them basically man their part of the jungle, and they handle it very, very well, and they're great tacklers. And so they're going to try to spill everything to those two guys and let them clean up the run game.
Awesome. Thanks, Phil.
Yes, sir.
Okay, our next question comes from Melissa Ray.
Yeah, Coach, what are the pros and cons of coming off a bye week? More time to prepare, obviously, but maybe not bringing in that momentum if you were to have had a game this past weekend.
Bye weeks are funny. If they time up well, I love them. If you've got somebody or some people that you want to heal up, then you love bye weeks because, maybe you're a little bit healthier going into that game 2 weeks from now. I am always the concern, I guess, on the other end of it would be when you're playing good football and you're in a rhythm. And I talked so much early on in the season, we went 6 weeks before we played the opener, and then we went 3 weeks before we played game 2. And it was just so hard. Now, it's harder in the beginning of the year, but it was so hard just to get into a rhythm. And I would love to have played those first 2 games again now, that we're kind of where we want to be offensively. But I always worry about sometimes just having too much time off. In this particular case, it's a little bit more unique because Notre Dame has 2 weeks off also. So we need the 2 weeks to get ready because they have 2 weeks to get ready. I think this time of the year, late in the year, we'll obviously be healthier going into the Notre Dame game than we would have if we had played last Saturday. So it's been good for us.
Thanks, Coach.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, let's go over to Andrew Jones.
Coach, when players are gearing up for a game like this, obviously they get very excited. But as a coach, what kind of drives you more? Is the excitement of the opportunity that you guys have or the intrigue in what your group might do against a defense like Notre Dame?
It really comes down to I hate to downplay any game, but every game after you play it is either a win or a loss. You know what I mean? It has the same value. I think when you have a team like Notre Dame, though, that is so good at what they do, and we work so hard to be good at what we do, it's fun. It's exciting to prepare for and get ready for and try to compete against somebody that does what they do at such a high level. And so this is an opportunity for us to see if we can do it against what I think right now is going to probably be the most, from top to bottom, the most physical defense that we'll see this year. And, overall, statistically, the best defense we'll see this year. So it's that part of it is exciting. I think really we got to focus on North Carolina this week and do what we do, and then we've got to be willing to bring it physically on Friday night.
Going back to their run defense, what element of your group's run blocking has improved the most since the opener?
We finished better. We're always talking about finishing. I always evaluate. First thing I look at when I watch the film, when I'm watching the O-line, is just to see how well we finished. And typically when we have explosive runs and I always say when you block well enough to beat the line of scrimmage with the running backs, you don't want to have to coach the running backs on that side of the field. At that point, it becomes about their ability and their talent. But you can help explosives. You can help promote more explosives in the run game when you do a good job blocking at the second level. And that will be absolutely paramount against Notre Dame. Of course, Notre Dame brings the second level to you. So we're going to see linebackers closer to the line of scrimmage in this game than we've seen all year. And, that in itself will be more of a physical challenge for us than we've seen in recent weeks.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Our next question comes from Ross Martin.
Hey, Coach. I was wondering if you do get Bo Krause back, or he's practicing this week, how that kind of figures in changing your wide receiver rotation and how that impacts your offense in general.
Well, first I would say, Ross, that Emory Simmons and Joffrey Brown have both established themselves as receivers in the system now, in the offense this year. So whether it's De'Ami Brown or Joffrey Brown or Emory Simmons, if Bo is back, now he is practicing. He did a nice job yesterday. So if he is back and he's able to go, then, we move him into the rotation and we go through this the same normal 4 wide receiver rotation that we're used to. We've kind of had to do without him in the last 4 or 5 weeks. So if he's able to play, it'll be because he's able to play, and we'll work him into the rotation like we did in the first half of the season.
Great. And yesterday, Sam was asked about something that stood out about what he's done the last couple of weeks. He mentioned that you came up to him and said that his fourth quarter numbers are like the best in college football or one of the best ever. What do you think makes Sam such a effective and dynamic player in the fourth quarter? Is it the it factor? What is it that you see from him that makes him so effective in the fourth?
Truthfully, I think it's 2 things. I think poise has a lot to do with, adverse scenarios in the game of football. So when adversity is the highest, I think it's when Sam is able to maintain the same calm that he had in the midway through the second quarter. I mean, he really doesn't change, and he's not a flappable kid. He doesn't get rattled. So that's one. And then the other thing is just, I think it's why any great quarterback is good in the fourth quarter. They're so dang competitive. They can't accept losing. They can't accept not getting the first down. They can't accept not completing the pass. They can't accept not finishing the drive. And, Sam is as competitive as any quarterback I've ever coached. And I would say that about a number of our players. And I just think that lends to how competitive and how hard we play in the fourth quarter. And that has a lot to do with our fourth quarter production.
Thank you.
All right. Let's go over to C.L. Brown.
Hi, Phil. After the Wake Forest game, Mac told us that he talked some with Sam and I wanted to get your perspective on when all is said and done at Carolina for Sam. What do you think? How do you think his legacy will be written?
So you're going to think I'm ducking this question, but I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not thinking about Sam Howell's legacy until he's done playing here. It's no different than approaching the season. I don't want to talk about the ACC championship game or the national championship game or being 11-0. I just want to talk about the next game. If you take care of that day's practice and that week's practice and that game, then the season and the championships and the legacy and all that stuff takes care of itself. So the word legacy and Sam Howell hasn't entered my mind really. I want to make sure he plays a good game on Saturday, and if he does that, it'll add to whatever y'all decide his legacy will be when he's finished.
Okay. Well, that kind of submarine my follow question, but so games like Notre Dame, games like a number 2 team coming in,
Sure.
generally go into constructing legacies. And you mentioned about his fourth quarter poise and everything. How is it, or why do you think Sam has been so kind of level-headed in terms of something as how he approaches a big game like this and Clemson last year and as a freshman? Where do you think that kind of fortitude comes from a player so young?
You know, I think that's two things also. I think one, it's Sam's demeanor. You know, I've coached other quarterbacks that would react to this game much differently. They reacted to adversity situations differently. Some of them were positive in their own right, but that's just how he is and who he is. And he's that way 24/7. You guys interview him, you talk to him, you know what his demeanor is like, and it doesn't really change when he's on the field. The second thing I would say is, you know, we always talk to our guys about we want to be simple on offense, and if you're knowledgeable about what we're doing, and you don't have to sit and think about what your job is, and things aren't overly intricate, you can play fast and you can play instinctive. And, you know, I think Sam has an incredible grasp of our offense. He has an incredible grasp of what teams are doing defensively. He does an excellent job during the week, and in this case, during the last 2 weeks, of mentally preparing for our opponent, in this case, Notre Dame. So really, my job ends on Friday. I mean, I just try to call a few plays and get out of the way on Saturday. The coaches, the staff's job is to prepare these guys Monday through Friday and then let them loose on Saturday. Now, in this case, we're kicking off 3:30 on Friday, so we bumped everything back, and I really need to have Sam ready to roll by Thursday evening. You know, and then I think a big part of the knowledge that he has about what the defense is doing, about what we want to accomplish on offense, lends to him having great confidence. And when you play with confidence, you're able to play without thinking, and you play fast, and I think you can play aggressive. And that's really, to me, probably the two biggest reasons why Sam has been consistent and successful.
Thanks, Coach.
Yes, sir.
All right, we'll close with Coach Longo with a final question from Greg Barnes.
Good morning, Phil. Was just hoping you could speak to Kieran Johnson's contributions, not just in the Wake Forest game, but for this team this season.
Q has, you know, he's the epitome of the walk-on that, you know, we all describe. When you talk to walk-ons, when you recruit walk-ons, when they come in, you know, it's explained to them all. They're not going to get the same opportunity that a scholarship athlete may get from a rep standpoint, especially in season, because you just don't have enough of them. And I think it's understood when you're a walk-on, the odds of you breaking the lineup and getting into the mix is much more difficult than that of a scholarship player. And I think that's true anywhere. So, you know, what's the dream for a walk-on? To get on a roster, to get an opportunity. They're paying their own way, so they're doing it because they love it. And they get onto a roster and they make enough noise in practice. They do enough good things right at their position. They show that physically they belong. In Q's case, that's how he first got noticed. He was very, very physical in inside run drills and in one-on-one full contact drills. And, you know, we said at the very least, Q may not fit the arm reach and the height and the weight requirements and all that you might recruit, but he was really, really good physically. So that got Coach Cyril's attention early on, and of course he brought it to our attention, and we all noticed Q. And so as things went on, and you know, we went through some center issues this year. You know, we lost Ty Murray early on, and that gave Q more reps, and he did a great job with those reps. And so he's a great example of a walk-on who has taken a very, very small opportunity and done a lot with it and expanded his role on this team to the point where he was the starting center for a 59-point output last week in a game and really saved our tail. And we gave Sam Howell the Player of the Week, but I asked our staff if they had any objection to giving Q half of that award, and of course they didn't. And so Sam Howell and Q Johnson were the Players of the Week for us last week, and he just did a great job of earning it. And he did what we hope all walk-ons would do when they finally get an opportunity, and that's produce. The best thing I told you this last week, the best thing I can say about Q the last 3 weeks in practice and in the game is I never noticed an issue at center. There weren't bad snaps and we weren't missing blocks or blowing protections or calls. I just never noticed them, which is an absolute compliment to a center because those are guys you don't want to notice. So I can't say enough about the job he's done just getting himself into the mix here and because of his performance in the last game.
Thank you.
Coach Longo, thanks for your time today.
Yes, sir. Have a great week. Enjoy the game.